Yeah, welcome to this presentation by our dear colleague, Professor Ljupčo from University of Skopje, North Macedonia. I am not the organizer, I'm just the host. I'm the chair for of the Department for South Slavic Studies here at Humboldt-University. We are in a classroom of Humboldt-University in the seminar on shared sacred places. Dr. Evelyn Reuter is organizing. You know, Humboldt holds the copyright of modern teaching, of the combination of teaching and research. And we have a so-called Bologna lab offering and financially supporting innovative teaching models. And Evelyn applied with success. So this is, let's say, the final point of her seminar, which was going on for 2 semesters. Unfortunately, we couldn't realize an excursion in early May to Ljupčo's summer school in Kriva Palanka due to Corona. So welcome to Humboldt University, but welcome also to the Berlin branch of Southeast European Association, which is an scientific and political organization financed by the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, and whose main agenda at the moment is to accompany and to moderate the accession process of the Western Balkan countries. Today we have a very actual topic, North Macedonia. We are very glad about the election results, who seem to promise a stable continuation of the reconciliation process with Greece and the Prespa Agreement, among others.
With unstable government.
Let's see. So we are here in the post-Yugoslav space. We are interested in Muslims in the Balkans, multiculturalism in the Balkan countries, religious tolerance, to give some keywords. And now I'm giving the floor to Joshua, who will moderate. And once again, thanks to Evelyn and her seminar for organizing this, and thanks for Ljupčo to accepting our invitation. Thank you so much.
Hello, everyone. Can you hear me and see me?
Yes.
Okay, good to hear. Okay, yeah, so as I said before, for those who didn't hear, my name is Joshua Callanan. I'm from the Theology faculty, but also taking many courses at the Slavic Studies faculty. I'm just about to start writing my thesis about the Montenegrin Orthodox Church and autocephaly, and with reference to Montenegrin nationalism projects. So very relevant also to what we're talking about today, but this is the Macedonian situation. So we're going to be hearing a presentation from Risteski, and who has written many articles about folk cultures and folk religions in Macedonia, also about the legacy of Alexander the Great and the feud between Greece and Macedonia about that legacy. And today he'll be talking to us about Macedonian nation building projects. And yes, he is a professor at the Skopje University, Cyril and Method, and this is in the Ethnology and Anthropology faculty, I believe. So I will give the floor to him, and he will begin his presentation, and then we'll have time for some questions and comments. And yeah, thank you very much, Ljupčo.
Thank you very much, Joshua. Thank you very much, Professor Voss. I would like also to thank Evelyn and all the members of the working group that actually gave me this possibility from the very beginning to participate in this very interesting project, which seems to be kind of partner and cooperation work among Humboldt University and our department, our institute. I'm sorry that we couldn't organize this spring school and excursion. Now there is a possibility for organizing this school in the middle of September. Now we are thinking of the both strategies, preparing maybe to have participants in Prima Palanka, or maybe to have all the school organized via some of those web platforms. And I hope all of those things would be productive. Of course, nothing can be like live participants, then experience on the field and so on, but all of us already accustomed with the situation. I could say that the last 4 months we worked on a huge project regarding the anti-corruption in Macedonia, and I did more than 50 interviews online via Zoom. So it worked perfectly, and we were absolutely satisfied with that. So we have to continue with our life, work, and even in a Corona times. So I think when we start talking and preparing what should prepare as a kind of introductory lecture for the students, for the colleagues that are already engaged in this project, I thought that maybe this would be somehow the most appropriate to speak a little bit about the Macedonian state and Macedonian nation, and all the rival projects happened between 1991 and, let's say, the last years, 2012, let's say. As most of you already know, Macedonia has been independent nation and state from 1991 till that. From 1945, Macedonia was a federative republic in socialistic Yugoslavia. Something which was very specific from the very beginning of Macedonian independence was the dispute with Greece, especially about the use of the term Macedonia in the name of the state, and of course everywhere where it was mentioned that time. So that was actually the situation, that the state became an UN member in 1993 under the provisional reference that most of us know, former Yugoslavian Republic of Macedonia. So dispute, despite the use of the constitutional name Republic of Macedonia in the country for nearly 3 decades, and among the already 180, I think, states in the world, this so the burden of this provisional reference, former Yugoslavian Republic of Macedonia, actually was something that we felt all these years. So the provisional reference of the name, the various unresolved issues with neighboring countries in defining the identity of the state and the nation, the internal economic transition that can begin even before the breakup of socialistic federative Yugoslavia, but still has not ended, and the internal interethnic strife between ethnic Macedonian and ethnic Albanians, as well as the political and cultural reforms, contributed to the general feeling of living in a state that has had an uncertain, provisional, unresolved, and undefined status for almost 30 years. Even some of those issues have been resolved in the last, let's say, few years. This feeling of uncertainties, provisionalities, and unresolved issues are still very alive, I would say. And even now, after the last elections that happened a few days ago, I could say that give stability to this feeling of uncertainty, provisionality, and unresolved things. Why? For example, only one last case. After the election went really well organized, even regarding to the corona issues and all the specifics of the period. After the finishing of the elections, the State Electoral Commission website fell down, it was hacked for more than 48 hours. So the Macedonian publicity didn't have any formal and official, would say, information about the results for more than 80 hours. The whole information about the elections we've got from the electoral stabs from the parties. So that was something that increased this feeling also of uncertainties even now. Lots of things the last years happened, and I would say stabilize somehow the situation in the country. Firstly, the Greek-Macedonian dispute was settled with the Prespa Agreement in June 2018. There were different perceptions on it. Many people would still speak in Macedonia that the Macedonian society is even more in depth divided at the moment on the patriots and those who threaten the Macedonian cause and that stuff. But still, as far as I see, and many other people see, this produced a huge stability and gave a prosperous path to the country, especially with entering NATO. Then Macedonia signed a friendship treaty with Bulgaria on August 1st, 2017, which also gave somehow boosting Macedonia's NATO and European integration. So on the 6th of February, permanent representatives to NATO member states signed a protocol on the accession of North Macedonia to NATO. And this actually, I think, was of enormous importance for the Macedonian state and of its stability. So that was absolutely important for the state. The process of redefining of the Macedonian state and nation, including the identities of the ethnic communities, their histories, cultures, and societies, especially internally, could be seen through three major phases, I would say. The first phase is from 1991, 2001, then from 2001 to 2018, which is actually 2001, the period, the year when the Ohrid Agreement was signed after the armed conflict happened in Macedonia, especially between the Albanian Liberation Army forces and the Macedonian police, army, and that's forces. And the third phase would say it is from 2018 till nowadays, which are mostly connected regarding the Prespa agreement, agreement with for the neighborhood with Bulgaria, and the constitutional changes that appeared as a result of those main two agreements. Now I will go a little bit back in 90s, at the beginning of the constitution of the Macedonian state, constituting the Macedonian state, and actually the breakup of Yugoslavia, which was on several different levels actually break up with on different levels in different circumstances. First, that was breaking up with the one-party system that we had before that, and the creation of the multi-party system in the independent Macedonia, which actually gave a pluralism to Macedonia, but with kind of local specifics. And about those specifics, I would say that the proponents of the nationalistic notions of ethnic single national states became increasingly vociferous, and in such states, the national, in these cases that was ethnic, the ethnic concepts gradually superseded the civic concepts. So instead of multi-party system, we've got multi-party system mainly formed in two main blocks by the ethnic, by their ethnic character: ethnic Macedonian bloc, ethnic Albanian bloc. There were, or there are still, ethnic parties of Turks, Serbs, Roma that are less visible but still existing. This, I think, is very strong and very specific characteristic of Macedonia multi-party actually system, giving actually the whole legacies of ethnic baggage we had all the, in the previous times already or as well. So in the Macedonian political bloc, we have two, from the very beginning till nowadays, we have two main actors. SDSM, or Party of Social Democrats in Macedonia. They are center-left party, and they are usually in everyday life connected mostly with the ex-communists and ex-communistic party of Yugoslavia and Macedonia, respectively. Then another main Macedonian political bloc is VMRO-DPMNE, which connects historically with internal Macedonian revolutionary organization existing at the end of the 19th century and beginning of the 20th century, movement mostly engaged into the liberation of the Macedonia as a region and administrative unit of the Ottoman Empire and getting its independence or autonomy. which was very complexly connected with different political waves coming mostly from Bulgaria, which was already a state at that time. So they are still Christian democratic and right-oriented. We can also say regarding the last, at least the last 15 years, they are also very, very nationalistic. Then the Albanian political bloc, where there was a very strong party, PDP, Partija per Prosperitet Demokratik, which was lasting from 1990 to 2017. And the PDP-A, PPD-sh, more radical than PDP, existing from 1994, and DPA, which is existing from 1997. So, on 21st of January 1990, the declaration of independence of the Republic of Macedonia was declared. And that time, Macedonian left and right parties already start confronting. So I would say that from the very beginning, the Macedonian bloc was absolutely and clearly divided and confronting on most of the essential issues and most of the essential resolves or proposed resolves. From the other side, from the very beginning, from the declaration of the independence, the confrontation between Macedonian and Albanian parties happened as well. So this clash was somehow established from the very, very beginning. So result was that Albanian bloc of political parties from the very beginning boycotted the proclamation of the Declaration of the Independence. So you can imagine how it just sound to the citizens of one state declaring the independence and having immediately the political bloc that boycott the proclamation of the independence. So at the very beginning, there were different kinds of interpretations of what is happening to the new state. The ethnic Macedonians, as an attitude, took the boycott as an attitude of negation towards the new Macedonian state. From the other side, the ethnic Albanians took it as a promoting ignorant and nationalistic politics, as well as of trying to create, creating a single national state of Macedonia. So the Albanians, the ethnic Albanians, interpreted this new established state as something is not fits their own wishes, their own expectations. So on 17th of November 1990, the adoption of the constitution happened, but again it was boycotted by Albanian bloc of political parties. So this previously mentioned sense of prolonged sense of uncertainty, prolonged negotiation, ignoration, and everything, you see it's happening from the very, very beginning. So some of the researchers that looked into the constitutions of the newborn Balkan countries in that frames of Macedonia as well, spoke about so-called constitutional nationalism, which was employed at most of the former Yugoslav states. And as Haydn defines it, it is constitutional and legal structure that privileges the members of one ethnically defined nation over the other residents in a particular state. So maybe you can here immediately make a connection between the very problematized preamble of the constitution of a Macedonian state, where it was said the state of, this is the state first of a Macedonians and then of all the others. In such a situation, sovereignty resides solely with a certain nation, people, who, as the majority, are the only ones entitled to decide on fundamental issues related to state setup and state identity. In this way, the legal regulations and the constitutional frameworks became a mechanism for institutionalizing the unequal position of minority communities, which may result in differential incorporation. The Macedonians believed that they had finally achieved their centuries-old dream of their own independent state, and saw themselves as a nation-building people, which provoked the Albanians into accusing them of neglecting them and of treating them as a second-rate citizens. And that was the main line of, let's say, animosities between the ethnic Albanians and ethnic Macedonians. Consequently, the minorities demand more equality, and if their requirements are not met, they may demand secession. Examining examples from various everyday spheres of life, in the early stage of Macedonian independence, we can see that such processes did occur in Macedonia, further reducing the trust between Macedonians and Albanians living in Macedonia. That was one reason why the Albanians were reluctant to participate in the political decision-making process in these crucial moments of Macedonian statehood and nation. And speaking about these, let's say, parallel processes in Macedonian societies, could be seen in most of the spheres of the everyday life. Still, we do have almost a parallel educational system, which is not integrated. Education in Albanian language and education in Macedonian language. Education which is organized in different universities or different high schools, where actually the point of integration of the pupils or the students is almost not existing. They are just in a parallel spheres, in a parallel worlds. And we can now point in different fields such parallelism that happened, which was going even with the ideas about having Macedonian Academy of Sciences and Academy of Sciences of Albanians in Macedonia or whatever. We have now different Macedonian and Albanian, how to say, organization in the sphere of economy and so on and so on. So this parallelism, especially in the years till 2015, it was very, very strong. The discontent among the Albanians in the late 1990s aggravated the political tensions, demands for improving the status of the minorities, demands for the use of the symbols and flags of the state and ethnic communities. Maybe now some of you can remember that about the happenings in 1997 in Gostivar and Tetovo, that they almost became in a conflict, armed conflict, just provoked with the use and misuse of the flags, the Albanian flag and the Macedonian flags, but mainly in that case with Albanian flag, which is still not very clear what does it mean when we say Albanian flag. I will say by after that. In 2001, after several unrelated attacks on the Macedonian police and army, the existence of the National Liberation Army of Albania became widely known, and it published various communiques to inform the Macedonian public about its goals. On 13th of August 2001, as a result of this, I would say, only armed conflict that happened between the National Liberation Army of Albania and Macedonian police and army, which was not spread ahead among the ethnic Albanians and Macedonians, otherwise it would be a war, a civic war. There was signed the Ohrid Agreement, which resulted with the new constitutional changes. So these changes, these constitutional changes, some of the researchers defined as a path of Macedonian state from constitutional nationalism towards constitution based on the multi-ethnic tradition, which is still, as it could be seen, still ethnic. It is still a preference, but not civil, which normally still, I think, creates serious issues, serious problems in the state. And if we just have a look at the last elections, and if we have just a short look in pre-electional campaigns, we would see that actually those ideas based on ethnics still are very alive and still help politicians to get their votes. The Albanian ethnic community was highly mobilized these last elections with only one idea: to have ethnic Albanian for prime minister. You can imagine the idea to have ethnic of somebody as a priority to have him, her for prime minister. No one other competence was important. it was only important to be ethnic Albanian, or I don't know now, maybe in the other case, ethnic Macedonian. But I would just like to say that those ethnic preferences and nationalism is still alive and still disturb our society very much. Now I would like to speak a little bit about the symbols of the state and the nation, because they are still absolutely alive and absolutely mobilizing the society from one issue into the another issue, not only in the inter-Macedonian ethnic core, but also into the Albanian or in between them.
Sorry, Ljupčo, can I just interrupt 1 second just to let you know you've got 20 minutes, okay?
Okay. I can go a little bit maybe faster. So in 1992, Commission of the Constitutional Matters of the Macedonian Assembly was in charge of drafting a procedure for the selection of the state symbols, because they didn't want to have the flag which is presented here on the and the flag of the Socialistic Republic of Macedonia. They didn't want to have anything in relation with it. So there was an open competition. There were 275 proposals, from which 239 there were for the flag and the coat of arms, and 36 for the anthem. In line with the report of the working groups, the Commission, at its session, decided to propose that the flag of the Republic of Macedonia be red with a golden yellow sun. That was the proposal. And in 1992 till 1995, the flag of the Republic of Macedonia was with the new Macedonian flag, with the sun of Kutlež or the start of Vergina. The Greek state reacted fiercely and without delay when this flag was declared to be the state flag and the symbol of the new Republic of Macedonia. This symbol has since been a powerful weapon in the process of archaeologization of Greek nationalism already in Greece, and it was heavily exploited for the political and commercial purposes. This symbol became part of the iconography of Greek drachma, Greek postage stamps, and a basic symbol of regional Greek flags in the 90s. The Star of Vergina on a blue background can be found on the unofficial flags of 3 Greek peripheries and the several prefectures. Massive protests against the politics and the symbolic rhetoric of the Republic of Macedonia were staged in 1992 in Greece, and especially in Thessalonica. More than 1 million people turned out, and the start of Vergina began to be called the Macedonian Star or the Macedonian Sun. Of course, as a result of the heavy political pressure from Greece, which in 1994 was imposed with a full 18 months of embargo and closed of Greco-Macedonian border, resulted with a process of reimagining of the state flag. So Professor Miroslav Grčev, its architect, was proposed 12 graphic designs for the flag that would have a sun in the center. So I'm giving here just several of them just to see what were the proposals. And on 4th of October 1994, the new flag of the Republic of Macedonia was actually chosen. But as you can see on the photos from different times and in different circumstances, we would see that actually the state flag was used or is still using in a different ways, showing that this problem actually is not completely solved. Even some of the officials of the Macedonian Orthodox Church, which is one of the most nationalistic actually represents, used in years behind this flag as an official one. So this flag has been the state symbol of the Republic of Macedonia ever since. However, the practices related to the use of the state flag and the other forms flag, as well as the flags of the other ethnic communities living in Macedonia, show that these flags has not been yet accepted by all citizens of Macedonia. It is still subject of divisions and various misuses, rather than serving as a unifying symbol of the state and the nation. The same, I would say, is the issue with the state, the coat of arms and the anthems, which showing two ways from unifying into the terrifying. The coat of arms actually is more or less the same from the socialistic times. Still, it was the same till the 2009, which actually shows that the ideas of its changes were existing, but there was not consensus of how the new coat of arms should be. And this having not consensus was not just only among the Macedonian parties, but it was also among the Albanian parties. So from 2009, they just removed the star, and it remains till nowadays same. Of course, there were different initiatives about the alternative Macedonian coats of arms, but they were never adopted. Something by Slovenian, let's say, examples, and some of with historical roots, mainly supported by a right wing, VMRO, DPMN, and all other nationalistic parties. Macedonian national anthem represents yet another challenge to the state and the nation identity. In this case, the challenges are intrinsic, driven by the internal strife among ethnic Macedonians in the processes by which they define their identity, but also as a result of the fact that the ethnic Albanians have disassociated themselves from the Macedonian anthem. So this, even the last years was, the parties were relatively quiet on this issue. I think that would be the next issue, especially among or between the Macedonian and the Albanian bloc of the parties. So Macedonian national anthem represents yet another challenge. Interestingly, 84% of the respondents in the 2011 survey answered that they like the national anthem of Macedonia, while just 15.2% say they did not. Ethnic breakdown shows that 54% of the ethnic Albanians said they did not like it, but 46% say they did. The anthem was overwhelmingly supported by the ethnic Macedonians. 97% of the respondents voted for the Macedonian national anthem. So the photos given here show actually the permanent struggle in the field of the languages in Macedonia and the alphabets, the usage of the alphabets. In the Macedonian predominant settlements, usually they erase the Albanian variant of the toponyms and vice versa. On 25 July 2000, acting on recommendation from OSCE, the Macedonian parliament adopted a new law on a higher education aimed to providing positive coexistence for the various ethnic communities in the country. So, in 2001, was established private Southeastern European University, also known as a Stuhl University, because before that, there was organized university in the Albanian language, which was not recognized by the state. In accordance with the Ohrid framework agreement, and as a result of the political demands of the state-subsidized institutions of the higher education, the State University in Tetovo was launched in 2004, where the education process is going on in 3 languages, into Albanian, Macedonian, and English. In recent years, the question of which languages and alphabets should be used in Macedonia has become part and parcel of a continuous struggle for dominance of signs and symbols. The issue of the position and the role of religion and religious institutions in Macedonia after independence is yet another key symbolic marker that reflects the processes undergone by the nation, the ethnic communities, and the state. In the pluralistic societies of the newly established countries in the region, including Macedonia, a major step was the reinstatement of the religion and the religious institution on the social scene, which happened immediately after the independence. Despite of the formal and declarative preservation of the secular nature of the state, even since independence, Macedonia's religious institutions have had a paramount position and role in the social, cultural, and even political life of the country. I sadly would say that this role, in a very negative way, the religious community leaders had even during the Corona times. I would just remember that the Orthodox Church organized several different events during the Corona when all the medical staff was telling not to organize. And finally, at the end of the Ramadan month, the head of the Islamic community in Macedonia, the highest leader, said, from this moment, I would say that Corona is dead, so we are free. And from that moment, accidentally or not, the Corona cases in the country are absolutely very high. Despite the formal and declarative preservation of the secular nature of the state, yeah, that was, I already said. So from 1998, the process of denationalization started. So the property already nationalized during the socialistic Macedonia times were gave back to the church and to the Islamic community. So now they're extremely rich, without actually any formal evidence by the state about their economic transactions. Just another example. The the head of the Islamic community in Macedonia, for the last 5 years, haven't showed to the state administration the final year counts about paid taxes or whatever. So for 5 years there is no any kind of evidence about their okay. So Macedonian Orthodox Church as an institution had proclaimed autocephaly from the Serbian Orthodox Church in 1967. Till nowadays, Macedonian Orthodox Church has not been recognized by the rest of the Orthodox churches as autocephal. Balkan social and political history researchers find a strong correlation between the creation of modern Balkan nation states and their autocephalous churches, which have a national character, supporting the theory of autocephaly as a function of national identity. So that's why actually it's equally important for Macedonian Orthodox Church and for the Macedonians has its autocephaly church, because it becomes as an issue of their ethnic identity. So the Orthodox churches hint at not only national but also ethnic equivalence with the dominant ethnic community. The animosity between Christians and Muslims in Macedonia, as well as the relationship between the larger and smaller religious communities, have in recent years become politicized on a daily basis. Most of the events that demonstrate intolerance have been related to the politics and not directly to the religion. In the first decades of the independence, the animosity between Macedonian Orthodox Church and Islamic community was interrelated with their constitutional status. This is also going with in a relation with the constitutional nationalism, where in Macedonian constitution was written that the Macedonian Orthodox Church as an institution is the main religious institution in the country, but the Islamic religious community was not mentioned into the constitution. The same is when Macedonian Orthodox Church states versus all other Christian denominations and the institutions, as well as the Islamic religious community versus all other Muslim tarikats. This is very specific issue as well. Maybe we can open it as during the discussion. Even the constitutional status of the Islamic religious community has a special role versus all other Muslim tarikats. As far as you know, there are at least 10, 11 different Muslim tarikats, denomination, mostly Sufi orders in Skopje. They have actually unequal status with the Islamic religious. So more or less, I think this is what I would like to say in a short time about all the, let's say, history of the events about Macedonia from its independence till nowadays. Thank you.
You finished, Ljupčo?
Yes.
Thank you so much for that. Thanks very much for the presentation and keeping within the time frame. Now we'll have time for some questions. I'll ask the first couple of questions, and if you have one, then you can write in the chat, or put your hand up within the Zoom function, and I will come to you, or you can just write the question in the chat, and I will read the question out myself. So as you like, but you'll have a couple of minutes while I ask a couple of questions first. So first of all, yeah, thanks again for the presentation. And I thought, since we just had the North Macedonian election last week, I thought I would start with that. So the result was a very narrow victory by Zoran Zaev and his Socialist Party. And now he'll have to form a coalition with, definitely some of the Albanian parties and maybe more others as well. The leader of the largest Albanian party, the Democratic Union for Integration, the leader Ali Ahmeti, said that he would like to see an Albanian prime minister. Is that something that you can imagine, that firstly that the biggest party would allow, ethnic Macedonian party, and number two, is that something that the rest of the population could stomach, could swallow?
Well, I mentioned during my lecture that actually for most of the people that have at least a more civil orientation than ethnic view of the everyday life, it's out of range to first to have in a pre-electional campaign the idea that the most political fulfillment would be to have, for the ethnic Albanians, to have ethnic Albanian for the prime minister. If it fulfills the criteria of a good, honored politician that most of us expect all those 30 years to have at least one that could lead the country in a better way, it doesn't matter. It would be ethnic Albanian or Roma or ethnic Macedonian or whatever. It really doesn't make sense. But in this, put in this context, I think it is just an obvious politicization on this absolutely and very sensitive way, using the ethnicity in political way. And that's why I think it will just made even slow the improvement of the country, and this trust between the ethnic communities would be even larger and larger.
You're saying we need to get beyond the ethnicization of the politics and not to have the discussion of ethnic Macedonian.
At least those politicians that were speaking with years that we need to be over the ethnic concepts, they immediately get back into the ethnic concepts, which I don't like, absolutely.
Okay, thank you very much. And yeah, I would have one more question from myself about the naming, the name situation. You mentioned in your text that was kind of the basis for this discussion that 80% of ethnic Macedonians answered yes when asked, do you think that changing the name of the state will harm the Macedonian ethnic identity? So that's one question, like in what way does that name change harm an ethnic identity? And also the next question is, do you think that the name change provides an opportunity for North Macedonia as a civic concept to incorporate Albanians as well, considering that it doesn't it reflects to a certain geography, not just an ethnicity itself?
Yeah, the question and the answer, I think, are absolutely very complex, and maybe we will need a long time to discuss the issue. But anyhow, I would summarize in that way. The name and the naming, as far as we are anthropologists, ethnologists, we know that it's absolutely and directly connected with the people's ideas about their core identity. So it's absolutely very difficult to even to imagine changing of the names and the names of the state as well. And most of the people share that idea that changing the name would affect the people's feeling and even or in at the same time the people's identity. When the agreement about the changing of the name, the agreement between Greece and Macedonia was announced, I was reading it very carefully. And at one point, when there was a process of, let's say, public building conscious or public building construction of the people's opinion on that issue, I was asked of my opinion to say if the change of the name of the country would change the identity. And there was a very short spot that went that time, that was the time, the period before the referendum, just to calm down the publicity with these ideas that if we change the name of the countries, we are going to lose everything. We are going, the ethnic Macedonians will lose everything then. So my opinion that time was the change of the name will not affect the ethnic identity, the changes into the ethnic identity, not into the language, neither into the people's feelings. Of course, lots of people didn't feel it like that. And I was attacked very much in the publicity. You know, patriots, nationalists, and people who thought that we are going to lose everything when the name of the country will be changed. They attacked us very much. Okay, verbally, mostly by mails, writings, and that stuff. In the social media, I was not attacked physically, but still it was really very, very strong debate. Of course, now we see that most of the things changed in sense of that the country got a possibility as a partner to participate in the most of the NATO, entering with the NATO, now starting the negotiation with the European Union and so on. So it gave to the country somehow of a prosperity. And we are still alive. There are, all the changes reflects to the people. And nobody felt satisfied, I think, with that. But we have to deal with our feelings and with everything which is our everyday life, and to choose at some point. So I think that was something we actually had to had to do. And actually, after such big political changes done in the country, I'm still very, very satisfied. I mean, very surprised positively first that Zoran Zaev succeed to won, even with small percent, to won this last election. We can just remember what happened with Tsipras in Greece. So the level of nationalism, I think, could be also elaborated as well.
Okay, you didn't mention the North Macedonian project as a civic concept for Albanian integration?
This project, the civil society projects in Macedonia are happening for more than 30 years, and I think this way would maybe provide more space for all of us living in this country. But from the other side, I'm saying the misuse of the politician, the ethnic concepts, are driving us back immediately. You know, you cannot speak about the civic projects if you are giving as an priority to have ethnic Albanian or ethnic Macedonian for prime minister. Does it make any sense for any one of us? I mean, I really don't see sense in that.
Okay, we have a couple of questions in the chat. One of them is from Dino Mujadzevic. He's visiting professor visiting professor at the university, at the Humboldt-University, coming from Serbia. Mm-hmm. And his question is, can you elaborate more on the official Bulgarian relationship towards the Macedonian state in regards to the nation and language, especially in the context of the recent Euro-Atlantic negotiation process?
Yeah, thank you for the question. This is, yeah, I would say almost one of the most important questions as well, or maybe the same important as the questions we were talking about. As far as the colleague knows, few years ago there was signed an agreement between the countries for the neighborhood relationships and their improvement. And actually, by case or not, I'm a member of a Macedonian part of this commission, Macedonian Bulgarian, for the historical and the educational issues, which actually absolutely do not the work of that commission didn't fulfill my expectation from the very beginning, just because actually the Bulgarian side from that commission denied very openly, not just historically, but present ethnic and national Macedonian identity, language, so on. As far as all of you know, in regards with the proclamation of the Bulgarian parliament, then few publication of the Bulgarian Academy of Sciences and so on. So opinion is something we know for more than 100 years. And our expectations were actually that with these new waves of thoughts and let's say new generations of politicians, new generations of scientists and so on, we can start something new in a discussion, but unfortunately it doesn't happen. So the Macedonian public see this only as another how to say way of stopping of Macedonia or North Macedonia in the process of negotiations with the European Union. They will just quest now our improving, I think. But there would be also a long lasting negotiation and so on.
Okay, thanks. Just try to keep the answers shorter to maybe 2 minutes so that we can get everyone's questions answered. Thank you. And I have to apologize, Dino is actually from Croatia and not Serbia. And I also got a message asking me if something was on fire in the back of my room, but it's not. It's just the sun reflecting through the window, so it's all good. I've got a question from Tatiana. Can you compare the Macedonian situation with the situation in Belgium? And then I'll also give you the next question as well, which is from Mary from our seminar, which is, thank you so much for the interesting presentation. My question is, how much were minorities included in the statistics, for example, regarding the national anthem? The floor is yours.
Well, first on Tatiana's questions to compare the situation between Macedonia and Belgium, I would say that I really don't have in-depth insights about the Belgium situation, so I cannot make any comparison in that sense, unfortunately. Regarding to the issues of the involvement of the minorities, I didn't get the question regarding to the research about the anthem done in 2011 or in general. In general. Well, I think these last few years there is not public discussion about the issue of the item. That was somehow postponed after we had all those really huge changes done with the change name, state name, and with the agreements for the good neighborhood relations, so on and so on. So I think there would be the next step, and lots of ethnic Macedonians are very anxious about that, I think, but more or less we think that there would be in the next phases a discussion on that issue as well. And I believe there would be taken into the consideration all the thoughts by the minorities as well. I mean, in Macedonia, there are communities now.
And the question about Belgium?
I said I cannot make any comparison because I really don't have any insights about Belgium situation.
Sure. And then I've got my last question so far on my comments, which is from Vesela Vana. Thank you so much for the talk, Ljupčo, which here is my question. What is the role of intelligentsia in bringing the country together? And more particularly, do you see any efforts by local historians to write on the multi-ethnic nature of North Macedonia in the past and argue the need of maintaining this balance within new civil state structures? Thanks for the question.
Yeah, this is also a very interesting question. First, I would say that the improvement, what happened among the ethnologists and anthropologists in sense of taking new, let's say, Western theories on the identity issues, dynamics of the identity, and so on, unfortunately, didn't happen among the historians in the country, and most of the historians would say in the countries in the region. Of course, there are lots of young historians, lots of young generations historians now in Macedonia, North Macedonia, and in the countries in the region as well, that made a big improvement. But still this improvement is not enough strong, especially not enough established into the official educational policy makers and so on, that so I think in the next few years they had to work very hard to make these improvements bigger and bigger. I can say that, for example, this autumn in North Macedonia will happen lots of events just regarding to the ideas of dealing with the past. There is a few institutions are connected. Our institute, the Institute of National History in Skopje is also, and the forum, it's German peace institution, okay, I will remember. So there would be at least a few publications, there would be recorded several interviews, and there would be organized 2 panel discussions during September with historians from the region and several prominent from the world. They are going to discuss exactly those topics just to sensitivize the societies here and in the region in regards to these issues. It's not an easy, yes, maybe civilian friendship, yeah. There would, I think this is not an easy way, but there is, I think, the only way how we should approach. Otherwise, the local historians and local people that are working dealing with these issues are just stuck in their, let's say, nationalistic ideas, and there is no improvement in them.
Okay, thank you very much. I've got 2 people who are actually going to speak themselves rather than have me read out for them. And they are first Evelyn Reuter and then Nenad Stefanov. So Evelyn, take the floor and try to keep it to 2-minute answers if you can. Ljupčo, thank you very much.
Yes, thank you for the lecture, Ljupčo. I have 2 questions. One is about the implementation of the new name, North Macedonia, because when I have been in January in Macedonia, I met a woman who just got a new passport, and on the new passport there was just written Macedonia still. So what can you tell us about this,
this
new
is
name
also
implementation? And the second, let's just and the second question.
This is exactly according to the regulation. Still, there is a Republic of Macedonia, but there is a stamp on the first paper in the passport where it is written that this is actually passport of North Macedonia. And this is regarding to the agreement. In the period of 5 years, there should be actually changed the name into these documents. So yeah, at least we do have now new passport. I mean, new issued passport. And there is a stamp where it is written, this passport is a possession of the Republic of North Macedonia. But what strikes most of the ethnic Macedonian is something else. There are lots of cases now when people, even colleagues, are speaking now from the countries from Europe and all the other countries. When speaking about Macedonians, sometimes some of them use North Macedonians, which is not according neither to the agreement, neither to our wishes. So according to the agreement, should be Macedonians from North Macedonia.
Okay.
So be careful.
And I have a second question with respect to the title of the seminar, which was about the ambiguity of shared sacred places. And since we know that religion plays a big role for the nation building and for the national identity, you already outlined this. I have a question. Would you say, or do you think that we can say that Macedonia is a shared religious place or shared, sacred? No, I would not go for sacred, but for religious space. And this maybe is more a question about what is the role of Macedonia or the Macedonian identity for the Islamic community.
Yeah, I mean, it is absolutely shared in space and place. Even sometimes people maybe do not feel like that. Sometimes they feel the ambiguity of this as well. Even sometimes in the opposition of the space and place. I think most of the people feel that this is our shared place, and historically it is shown in lots of examples where actually we do have sharing the same places and spaces. So I think in everyday life, the situation is much more relaxed than it looks like through the presentation of the politicians and so on. So, yeah, I think it is.
Thank you. I just asked because also in Macedonia, the Islamic communities, they share small day calendars, which in Turkish and Albanian mostly, I haven't seen them in Macedonian, and they come from the Turkish Republic and the Diyanet. Mm-hmm. And I don't know maybe how this influences the Macedonian identity of the Muslims.
There are also huge influences from the countries around, and especially regarding to the Muslims, a huge influence from Turkey. Yeah, that's true.
Thank you for the question and the answer. And yeah, I can also say from personal experience that people are, so far I can see, agreeing to that North Macedonian Prespa agreement where you do say Macedonian and not North Macedonian. I was told off by it because of it the other day. Got a warning. So, and thanks to Nenad for his question.
So I have also to thank to Ljupčo. It's for his talk, for your talk, and it's a great thing actually to listen to you if we can't contact personally. My question would just go back to the beginning, because you talked about this provisorium. And I would like to ask you to which extent we can relate this experience also to the other parts of former Yugoslavia, to Bosnia. I mean, Steph Jansen also talks about the waiting room. And there are also politicians like Ivica Dačić, and not to mention others, who are questioning the existence of Bosnia and Herzegovina. And on the other hand, at least Serbia is also a provisorium. You don't know the borders of Serbia and the possible new ones of Kosovo. So to which extent does this influence the Macedonian problem, and to which extent, sorry, it is free of it, sorry.
Yeah, I think more or less we are sharing the same destiny. But maybe the case with Macedonia and Bosnia was a kind of specific one, because this waiting room or waiting time was prolonging almost with ages. And this, I think, made us all desperate, from time to time, extremely desperate. And now, after some things already changed in Macedonia, with the name change and state name, then entering the NATO, there is some wishes and notices that some things are already changing. Otherwise, it was really something what, for example, Ilka Thyssen was writing, waiting for Macedonia, waiting with ages. And that's actually just why we really didn't would like to, after we solved one or the another problem, now to be stopped into the third problem, especially with the issue, with the relations between Bulgaria and Macedonia. Now, personally, I see this issue, especially after I have this personal experience with the Commission. That would be the next stop for Macedonia on the way into the European Commission, and that would be absolutely and really big unfortunate for our country. And I really hope there would be a way how to get out from this. But you know, to have a position or to have a situation to discuss those historical issues, and to have the position, then one side is just making conditioning the situation. It goes out of the academic sphere, and I'm totally disappointed with this. So who knows what will happen with this?
Okay, thank you very much for the question and the answer. There might be time to have another question if someone else has one. Otherwise, I will ask one myself. Nope. Okay. Well, then I guess I will actually ask another question myself, and also maybe throw it out to the rest of the group, and anyone may make a comment or a further question. So you mentioned that there was these three phases during which one of them Macedonians have been laboring under the burden of the provisional reference to the country in the former Yugoslav name, and now we have a new phase, which is with the name. So how long is this phase going to last for? What is going to happen in it? Is it going to be the phase of the great North Macedonian freedom, or is it going to be a very short phase and then we enter a new paradigm? Yeah, I just need you to look into your crystal ball a little bit, I guess.
Yeah, actually the differentiation of the three phases was done just from the period of the 1991 and the independence of Macedonia till 2001, the conflict, when several important changes in the Macedonian legislative constitution society have been done. Then the second from 2001 till the change of the name of the state and the agreement. So I think the changes that were happened in Macedonia are not just changes in the changes done by the agreements or in the agreements or in the constitutions. Those changes really reflected in everyday life. And I would say even this time of prolongation and waiting and everything happening too long and too much for all of us, there are really great changes already happened in the society. I usually mentioned our colleagues from the Slovenian department, with whom we cooperate very, very much and for a long time. They usually would mention their memories about 90s when they came in Macedonia, and now when they're coming in almost all the spheres in everyday life. Speaking with them about the media, speaking about the usage of the languages. I also very often mention, for example, the beginning of the 90s when the Albanians proclaimed the usage of the Albanian language in everyday life, in the titles, inscriptions, and everywhere, which was something absolutely not imaginable for us. Today, there is something absolutely normal. You saw everywhere, unless some of them are erased or in black, but you still see almost everything written into the both languages. And of course, very often I speak with people, and especially with the Macedonians, that sometimes are anxious about that, thinking that they lost something. It's very important to say that Macedonians didn't lose the Macedonian language with this. They just improved our mutual life and cooperation, so I think a huge improvement has been done.
So do you think it's going to be a generational thing, that it's hard to swallow for maybe older people, for maybe middle-aged people, these generations, and then the younger people are coming through will grow up as in North Macedonia and will.
Yes, of course, I think, and it just needs the time. It just needs the time.
Well, it's nice to kind of end on that optimistic note, I think. Does anyone have any comments or questions further?
Well, if I just misuse this possibility from here to say that I would really be very glad to see most of you in this project, and maybe in partnership with another project with the Spring School, which is going to be organized in autumn. Spring School Socialism as a Cultural Heritage, where we are going to maybe speak and discuss and research in depth several issues that are of your interest, that are of our interest. And I really appreciate this way as well. I mean, I would really like to have possibility for all of us to be in Kriva Palanka, because we already get some money, which is also curiosity for us to get some money for organizing this school and to host several students in Kriva Palanka. But anyhow, I would like to continue with this project and with this school in the autumn, and I would share with Professor Christian Voss and with Evelyn some details about that.
Okay, thank you so much. And yeah, we'd like to thank you as well so much. We were very disappointed to not be able to come to Macedonia or North Macedonia this year, but hopefully there will be future opportunities to get the Humboldt and the Skopje University together again.
Thank you.
So if that's all, then I'll conclude this interesting session about Macedonian national symbols, and I'll invite the rest of the people attending our seminar to stay on to have a brief discussion afterwards. So thank you everyone for coming, and hope you have a nice evening.
I would like to thank you. Just one second. I would like to thank Josh for taking over the part of the moderator, and Farah for coordinating the lecture with Ljupčo, and yeah, Sabrina, Mary, and Vincent for their work in the background. So with the like poster, and for making promotion, and yeah, for coordinating these things also with the Southeast Association, and of course Professor Christian Voss for the nice introduction and for helping us with yeah, connecting this lecture with the Southeastern Association. Thank you. Have a nice evening.
Yeah, to all of you too. Bye.
Thank you. Have a nice evening.
Bye.
Bye.